walking into the dressing rooms when you don't know anyone, coming to a country when you don't know the language. But this is my challenge every day. I'm not going to win matches. Never, as a coach. The players will win the matches. They are the ones who run, they are the ones who pass in the ball, they are the ones who have a shot on target. We as coaches, we are just simple people that will guide them in the way we think they will have success. My main thing is make players better with emotional control, be as comfortable as you can, and just crack on with the job.
Welcome to the Proline Coaching podcast, where we talk about football coaching, player development, and everything in between. I'm Bahgozen, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Nolan. Carl, what's new?
Yeah, so another good week of coaching this week, Ash. It was interesting. I took some time out to go and watch our goalkeeper coach working with two of our goalkeepers on a coming out to deal with crosses session. It was good just to analyse what he was doing, how he was getting his coaching points across to the goalies, because I don't get to do that an awful lot with obviously coaching the outfield players. So that was very interesting and good for my coach development.
Yeah, and today we've got a guest from Venezuela. I'm very excited to introduce him. Before we do, I would like to thank our sponsors for today for powering our episode. Cryfield Surveys Limited. Cryfield are an established company in measurement surveying, producing accurate CAD drawings of existing land and buildings for architectural requirements for the purpose of updating or further building. Also, make sure to check out the Proline Coaching Academy socials on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. The links will be down in the description below. And finally, please like and subscribe to the channel for this episode. So today we're sitting down with Juan Dopazo, a highly experienced coach whose journey taken him through every stage of player development, from working with 4-year-olds to senior football across semi-professional clubs, professional academies, university football and women's football. Juan holds the UEFA A licence, the FA Advanced Youth Award and the FA Level 2 in Talent Identification. His career includes coaching, management, player recruitment, performance analysis and coach mentoring. He has coached across men's, women's and youth football, held performance analysis and recruitment roles at Aldershot Town, and even worked in higher education football at the University of Warwick. Juan, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me today. A real pleasure to be sitting here with you guys.
Gracias por venir hoy.
Gracias por la invitación.
Juan, we like to start with all our guests, mate, in terms of how it all started, so their playing journey up until today. So obviously born and raised in Venezuela, played a lot of your football early on in Venezuela from the age of 4.
Exactly.
Please tell us a bit about it.
So yeah, I started when I was 4. It was not even was my parents deciding me to play football. It was just one day walking inside the school with my mother and I saw these boys playing, kicking a ball, and I said, I want to do that. So she said, are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I want to do that. So they put me into football and that's how I started. I come from the background in Venezuela is a bit different in terms of how you play football, in terms of you don't have football clubs like you have here in every corner. You play there for your school team. That is the tradition, especially if you are in a Catholic school. Spain is basically big religion and football coming together. If you see any Spanish countries, that you will find a church, and next to the church it will be a football pitch. So that was also related to us. We have a massive population of Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. My 4 grandparents are Spanish, so that's why I moved here, because I had the Spanish passport thanks to my grandparents. And basically was about playing for the school team since I was 4 years old, up to I was under 18s, and then I played for the first team as well for the school. But basically that's the cultural thing that is different with the UK, in how you play your football.
So you would play against other schools?
Exactly. So basically the leagues were a school league. You could have some clubs, social clubs involved. So you have like big Spanish social clubs that they have football teams, but they were in the same league. So everything was organized by the county FA, to say in a way, and all these teams were together. 11 aside, since we were 5.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the only difference was the size of the pitch and the size of the goals, but it was always 11 aside,
Wow.
and it was always competitive. You have league tables even if you were under 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. From the
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was, so 11 aside, competitive football, all the way up to leaving school?
All the way to leaving school until you are under 18s. Normally, back there, at least at my time, you don't have each year playing differently. You normally have under 8, under 10s, under 12. So you do 2 years in one category. So you have like first years under 12, second years under 12. And normally, if a school had too many teams or too many players, they would have 2 teams in each category. And normally you will have the second years under 12, like a strong team, and they were normally the ones dominating the league. And then you will have the first year under 12 in another team.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So would it be coaches that would come in outside of school to coach you, or would it be school teachers? How did that
No
work?
school teacher. I mean, especially with a Catholic school, you will have the majority of the teachers were specific to their topics, and coaches were hired just to be football coaches. So my coaches, I had basically 3 coaches during my school period. The first one was a Colombian coach who was my coach from since I was 4 up to around 10, 11 years old. Then I had a Brazilian coach that he used to play with Garrincha at Botafogo. Unfortunately, he could have had a bigger career than the one he had, but he was afraid of airplanes.
Right.
So he would have had the opportunity to be teammate of Pelé.
Wow.
But unfortunately, he was cut short because of that situation of being afraid of flying in an airplane. But he was my coach from around 11 up to 16 years old. And I mean, he was already at that age, around late 50s, but you could see the quality. I mean, the left foot was amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
In terms of him as a coach, his philosophy, anything you could give us?
He was, if we think nowadays, modern football, I would say he was mentality of Guardiola. So play now from the back, touch and move, receive again, just play, move the ball. Brazilian football. And he liked to have players that will beat players, express themselves, be positive on the ball, and create something out of it. Make good football. I mean, good football in terms of a spectacle. So people would enjoy watching his teams play.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
How has his approach, would you say, perhaps influenced your own coaching journey?
I would say that all the coaches were quite similar, while the same minded in terms of how they want us to play. And I think I was quite lucky to have decent teammates in terms of quality wise. Some of them play professional football for short spells. But yeah, I think the way South Americans we see football is a very like-minded Spanish football, more tiki-taka in a way, being aggressive in possession. So when you are 1v1s, you try to beat your player, you try to do quick combinations, you try to be creative. You have that flair in you that you want to show that in a football pitch. I don't remember him talking to us about defending. So obviously it was important, but it was more about what we can do going forward, not too much of what we can do when we don't have the ball. I don't remember any time during all my years playing in the school anything related to defending. But if we lost the first section the next week, it was fitness for hour and a half. You could see the huddles, you could see everything, and you say, "Oh my God, here we go again." We didn't want to lose because we knew what was going to happen. So yeah.
Interesting. You also have a futsal background from university. How did that influence your DNA as a player?
Futsal, even that I never played organized futsal until I was in the university team, I always play in the street, basically in public futsal pitches that you find. Venezuela, in that sense, you find a lot of futsal pitches. So it's really common that certain areas you will have on a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, during the weekend, 40, 50 people in a futsal pitch just playing five-a-side. And obviously it's a survival environment because I used to play when I was 10, but I was playing against boys that were 18 and we were playing against each other. Age wasn't an issue, you just play. And the issue was that the winners stay on, but the losers out, but you got 50 people waiting to come on. So your chance to come back on that afternoon is very slim. So you wanted to just, I mean, we need to try to win no matter what to stay on the pitch so we can play a bit longer. So it was, in terms of younger years without the structure of futsal in a team, it was really good because it was, one, playing against older players, stronger, quicker. So you needed to find a way how to deal with that situation. And because there were no coaches, there was no structure, you needed to think about solutions. So it was, the good thing about futsal is reduce space. So you needed to move off the ball quick, especially if you are a tiny player, where you don't want to go to a physical battle. You need to find your spaces. Also is how you think ahead before receiving the ball. What are you going to do with that ball? How you're going to take that touch to allow you to play how you want to play. So it was all, and probably we were not thinking about, I mean, now as a coach, I could say how that influenced myself as a player. But back then, you are not thinking about all those benefits of playing in the street, playing with people that were older than you, playing in those reduced spaces. You don't think about it, you just play, basically.
So that environment, and you know, I find that very invaluable because you know, you're in that situation, you're forced to learn something, right? You're forced to improvise and to make your way out. How was that impacting your coaching?
I think the main thing is, depending on the age, obviously, and when we talk about development, I think that freedom to play is really important because that's when you could create players with flair, players with creativity. If you structure everything and you basically tell them exactly what you want them to do all the time, you are developing robots and they won't create their own decision making. And to be fair, you play professional, you need to make your decisions on the pitch. You cannot be listening to a coach, especially if you have a big crowd. You cannot listen to your coach telling you what to do. So you need to make decisions in seconds that are really important to things to happen. So I think the way I see it, especially with when I was doing 4 to 6 year old boys, that moment is just enjoy, love the ball, because the ball, if you fall in love with the ball, you will love this sport. So it's about touch the ball as many times you can in the session and feel that that ball means everything to you. That's the only way players will fall in love and they will carry on in the sport. Because that's, if I see it from myself, I don't remember any pressure, anyone telling me, no, you need to do this, you need to do that. Obviously, yes, I had coaches and they were telling me their advices. And at the end, you want that from a coach, is to guide you in certain moments. But you still need that freedom to discover yourself how to solve issues that you will have as a player.
So talking about working with very young children, that was going to bring me to my next point. Having experienced my first ever coaching job working with 4 to 5 year olds, and I did that for a whole year. Absolutely loved it, but boy, was it challenging. That was your first job, wasn't it, when you came to the UK?
Yes.
Working with that age group. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So when I came to the UK to work, I almost spent 1 year without coaching. I never coached before. I always wanted to coach since I was 18, but with the cultural thing as well, back home, it's not a thing that you become a football coach. You go to university to do a degree. If I would have told my parents that I wanted to be a football coach, that same day I would be out of the house. So, but it was always in my mind. So when I moved here, I said, okay, I'm in England, the home of football. There is a football pitch in every corner. I need to do it now. So I started finding out about opportunities, and I found one with Nunnery Wood Colts in Worcester through the Worcester FA website. And I contacted them. I had a meeting with the director of the club, Darren Mace, at that moment. I don't know, to be honest, I'm not sure if he's still there. And he said, well, do you have the level 1? I said, no, I'm doing it next week. Okay, just do it, and we got something for you here. So I did it. It was only 2 weekends at that moment, the level 1. So I did the level 1, and I started on a Saturday morning doing 4 to 6 year old. It was an amazing experience because they don't care about anything else apart from the ball and have fun. So you cannot go into any details, technical. No. Forget all about that. It's just make sure that session is fun enough for them, that they engage with you, they try to follow the few instructions that you give them, but that they are having fun and they have a smile. Because that's the only way they will come back the next week. So it was challenging because it's one trying to keep everybody under control. But it was, what I noticed is if the activity was fun enough, it was easy to control.
Yeah.
But the challenge was mainly what can be fun for them. And that was basically how to deal with them. And as soon as you hit the sweet spot, they just go and enjoy.
Yeah. The two major challenges I remember from that age group was keeping them in the area that you've set out. So set out maybe, I don't know, a 40 by 40 square, and they'd be going 20 yards outside. Come back. I remember that. And like you've said, keeping them interested enough for sometimes 10 or 15 minutes can be a challenge.
Exactly.
So then you moved to under 11 football?
Yes, so with the same club, they gave me the opportunity for the next season to be with the under 11s. It was run by one of the parents, so he needed someone to help him out. And it was good because I was starting to do my level 2 in football coaching. So it was a good challenge because especially it was interesting to see how different it was from 4 to 6 year olds to under 11s that had a better understanding of playing, but obviously you needed to try to teach them something different, coach them some things that were different, and it was dealing with the difference between the levels of the players. Some were really good, others were not at that level. So it was trying to give each of them what they needed at that time.
And then a bit of a jump into a different environment with adults, Sporting Council Women.
Exactly. So almost at the same time, I had the opportunity as soon as I finished the level 2. I was looking for another role to get involved with adult football, and I saw Sporting Council looking for a coach. I went there to have an interview with the chair lady who is still there, Kelly Williams, and and I was lucky enough that they said, yeah, come on board. So I started as first team coach for the Sporting Council Women. They were playing at that moment Tier 4 of women's football, and it was a completely different environment. Not only was adult football, but was also women. That obviously the way you, in a dressing room, for example, full of men, you talk about things that you wouldn't talk to women. So you needed to be more conscious on how to behave as a coach in front of them, what type of jokes you could say, because at the same time, even that is first in football, you need to still want to bring your personality into the club.
Yep.
Okay, I think for me it's really important that I bring who I am, and I am South American. Simple as that. I have my way to do things. the way I behave is different than English citizens, which is normal. So I always try to bring who I am, but also being respectful of the ladies that I was coaching.
So you had to adapt to not only different age groups, but different genders and also different cultures. Was there any lessons that really stuck with you in that period of time?
Yes, I think it was basically with that first time at Sporting Calza is how you develop a good relationship with players. Because the majority of them, they are in a decent level of football. They are playing, at that moment, they were even paying to play. So they were players that were working the whole day. So how you deal with their issues that they have, how you make them again enjoy the session, enjoying being there, because for them it's not work, it's sometimes a release from their own problems. And if I mean, I remember my days when I was playing football, there was nothing in my mind during those 90 minutes, during that hour. It was just enjoying. So it was how you behave as a coach in terms of they are enjoying, but also we are working towards what we want as a football club. And competitive football, obviously, results were important. So it was trying to keep that balance between being professional way, but also enjoyment for them and enjoyment for us as well as coaches, because we are doing this part time, sometimes without receiving any money. So we need to have fun as well when we're doing that. We need to enjoy while we do it.
Absolutely. So during that role, you also took on another role in men's semi-professional football, and then went on to do quite a big stint in men's semi-pro football.
Yeah,
Is that right?
so basically I was with the under 11s. I finished with them, and then while I was with Sporting Calza Women for around 2.5 years, roughly. So when that finished, the coach, one of the coaches that was with me at Sporting Calza Women, Steve Barrow, we have the opportunity to go to Brockton at the same time. So basically, our Saturdays were men's football, our Sundays were women's football, and again, it was another challenge because yes, you are both open age football first team, but different genders, different environments, different, everything is different. So you still needed to adapt everything. A session that you were probably putting together for the women's side couldn't be done the same way with the men's side. So you needed to think about the individuals that you have in that team, how they behave, how they see you, because I think the perception that you have when you go to a new club is that first challenge of being accepted by the players, so they start buying into what you're saying. And I would say with women have been a bit easier for me. I think they have been less critical about who is this guy. They hear you first, and then they decide if they buy into it or not.
Sure.
Men, they say, okay, who is this guy? Well, he never played professional football, so who is? Why he's coming here? And one thing that I notice is, and he's fat. How a fat guy is going to coach us? So it's interesting because some players have their moments of doubt about yourself, and you have your imposter syndrome in that moment. Say, what am I doing here? So that's when resilience needs to kick in, confidence needs to kick in your knowledge as a coach, and you need to break that barrier that you have when you first meet those players. And with time, if you do things right, they will buy into it and they will start trusting you.
Absolutely. So apart from those challenges, once you were in those roles in adult football, what would you say were some real significant challenges working in semi-professional football?
I think especially when I had my first experience as manager at Gornal, I was coming from being with Bolmer as a first team coach. That I would say being a coach in first team football is way easier than being the manager, because at the end you are not making the tough decisions. You are there, you try to put the best sessions as you can, try to get the group getting better, trying to follow the philosophy of the manager you're working with, and trying to create those sessions that it will work for the team. But when you are the manager, you need to think about everything. So the first role was with Corner Athletic, and one of the big challenges was that I didn't have my own staff. So I had the meeting with the chairman. He offered me the job, but he asked me if I could keep the staff that was already there. And I accepted because I didn't really have the staff. I was basically a new guy, still in the UK, no major contacts. And at the end, looking backwards, it was a massive mistake. Because at the end, as a manager, you need to be surrounded by people that you trust. Because things are difficult, and I remember the first two match with Gornal, we drew and we won, and I was receiving messages from people saying, "Oh, congratulations, well done." Then we had a few games that we didn't win. We lost 3 or 4 in a row. No more messages. So all those people that were with you when you were winning the first couple of matches, they forget about you completely. So it's a lonely place. So if you don't have that backroom staff with you that you can really trust, it's tough. It's tough because you go home thinking, okay, what can I do? But you don't have anybody challenge you the right way to make things better. So I think that was one of the main challenges. Then the second one is basically players. How do you deal with players that are coming in different moments of their football career? Professional players that now they are playing non-league football, and obviously they have a really strong background and they won't buy into you just because you are a coach. You really need to show your value to them. But I think the main value is, how can I make you better? How can I make you, whatever time I'm with you here, to be in the starting 11, if that's what you want? If you want to improve in something, how can I help you? So I think as a coach, that's when you gain your value, in how you try to be more into an individual coach and start profiling the players and noticing what they really need, and try to work with them and feel them that you care about them. Because I always say this to players: there's nothing more important for me than my players when I'm in that club, because I'm not going to win matches, never, as a coach. The players will win the matches, always.
Yeah.
They are the ones who run, they are the ones who pass in the ball, they are the ones who have a shot on target, they are the ones who do everything. We as coaches, we are just simple people that will guide them in the way we think they will have success. And yes, we made the mistakes, and normally those mistakes will end up in losing games. But we don't win the games. The players win the games. So when you have that relationship, because I always said this, a coaching relationship is a two-way relationship. You need to feedback from players because they know what they want, and they know probably what they are their weaknesses. They know what are their strengths, their super strengths, and they know how you can help them. So as soon as you show them that you care and you are there to help them, it opens a massive door in terms of a good relationship with them.
So in terms of helping players, other than practice sessions, what kind of methods was something that you applied? Maybe perhaps analysis?
Well, at Ballmer, we didn't have video cameras like right now because they were not popular at that moment.
Yep.
I think right now with video is way easier. But we used to have someone that was recording the game for us.
Brilliant.
So we tried to do a bit of analysis. Not every week. It was details. So it was about finding those details on the footage about certain players and telling, okay, look at this clip. How can we make this better? Or what do you think? Because that's the other thing. Analysis, what's the point of we telling everything the players? I sometimes think if you show them the footage and tell them, what do you think? They might come with the answer already. They might notice themselves what the issue is. So what you are trying to do there is facilitating a bit.
Yeah.
So you are facilitating the image that you know something can be improved, If they get it by themselves, brilliant. If not, that's when you could jump in and say, okay, why don't we try this? So when you made this path, you notice this option here, because that's the other thing, decision making.
Yeah.
And one thing is to be on the sideline with a lot of time, and one thing is being in the middle of a crowded place with your heartbeat going 200 miles per hour, and you need to make a quick decision. So,
Yeah, I mean, with my background in analysis, when I started out, I got into that habit of basically picking this out, picking that out, and just throwing it to the player. But over time, I learned that I think there's a little bit of guided discovery that's required. So, was that the kind of method you were using, giving it to the players?
yes, and also was about finding the right time to give that feedback, because that, I think that is important, that you find the right time, and that is when you know the player, you know when is the right time to talk to them about something. Sometimes after a game, we are emotional after a game, whatever happened in that game, even if you win, but you have, as a player, you had a bad game or a poor game,
Yeah.
you might not be in the right moment to have a coach telling you, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. That's not the moment. So sometimes it's about letting them go home, letting them have their moment of relax. And when next session you have the time, and you could tell them, can you arrive 5 minutes earlier? And you have a quick chat in the club, inside the pub of the club. Just show him the image that you want to show. Have a good conversation, because it could be just, why do you think you have a bad game? Sometimes they think they had a bad game, but they didn't have a bad game. So, or something else is happening outside football. So, in terms of the analysis, is one, finding the right moment. Also, is how much information you want to give them.
Okay.
Because how much do they want to take in one go? So it could be 10 things that you saw in that video, but are you going to fix 10 in one go? Probably not. So you need to probably focus more on what is the most important thing they need to improve right now, and we focus on one or two things. And yes, we as coaches, we know there are other things that we could improve, but which is the main one? Which one is the priority right now for this player to be better? And you could ask him, I noticed this, and that. Which one do you want to improve right now? Okay, good. So we agree this is your priority. Let's work on this. So you create now, immediately for that session, an individual plan from him. So that session, apart from being a team session, you have individual challenges. So if this player is about making quicker decisions, you could say, okay, you only got 2 touches. So you need to think ahead what you're going to do before receiving the ball. So you don't need to take extra touches because your body position is wrong, because you are thinking what you want to do after you receive the ball instead of thinking ahead. So you start working on that player, and during the session, you walk next to him almost and guide him without stopping the session. Because that's the other thing. As a player, do you want to be signal every single time you need to do something? No. But you have those moments that the whole session is happening, but you could be next in the middle of the whole session, in the middle of the group, talking to this player and working on the things that you decided, okay, we're going to work on this together.
Fantastic. So during your career here in the UK, Juan, you also held a scouting role at Wolves. How did that come about? What did that involve?
So at that moment, I was, if I don't remember wrongly, I was still with Bolmer. Yeah, I was still with Bolmer. And I always wanted to be involved in academy football. At that moment, I was only a level 2 coach, so no chance to have a part-time role as an academy coach. And scouting has been also something of major interest for me. So I said, okay, I saw this advertised for an academy scout with Wolf. We at that moment, it was only needed the level 1, and I already had it. So I said, okay, I'll apply, and I got the role. It was a short spell because at that moment I was doing also my B license. So I was with them for around 6 months' time. I think it was really important for me because I had first-hand experience in terms of how an academy is set up, a professional academy. especially a cat one. Seeing the quality of the players at that level. Also understanding that when you go out and see other players, how if they will really fit into the players they are looking for. So what type of profile this academy in particular are looking for. And when I started, they gave us a guide. So each age group with a profile on each position. So you had a guide of basically what they were looking for. And it was really interesting because it gives me a completely different view of how things are done and how really you can go now to a grassroots football match finding someone and you might think he's good. Yeah, but he's not good enough for that group. Or he's good enough, but this is not the type of player they're looking for. So, okay, fine. So you need to keep looking on. And I made mistakes. Yeah, I I brought a player. I remember the first player I brought in. The one of my superiors, he said to me, Juan, how did you bring that player? So it was also important because it was an eye opener that whatever you think is good enough, it might not be good enough. So it was interesting because it was a completely different challenge in that sense of identifying what talent is, and especially to a high level academy, and also having the conversations with the coaches at grassroots football, parents, to invite them for trials to the players. So it was really interesting. Unfortunately, it was for a short time, and it was for a short time because I finished my B license and I had the opportunity to go to academy football, professional academy football. That was something that I was really looking forward to go as a coach.
Fantastic. So interestingly, I know as a scout, the particular club that you're working for, they will have a profile of a player that they're looking for, and you kind of have to go with that. And I think that can sometimes be hard because, without a doubt, we've all got our own philosophy as a coach. We've all got things we particularly look for in players. What qualities would you say you particularly look for in young players?
Yeah, as you said, we all have bias. And again, cultural thing. I'm coming from South America. So who was the best player when in the 90s? Maradona. What is your idea of a great player? Short, technical, really good, strong, yes, but you are thinking about those type of players that really influence you when you were a kid, and they were your idols, and you think that is, oh, those are the great players. So is that what they were really looking for? Probably not. So is changing that mentality, is trying to switch off your bias and be more objective on the job that you're doing. That is basically, this is the profiles, find something for the profile. Whatever you think is good is not what they're looking for if your bias are not similar to them. And that is not an issue because, they are a professional club, they know what they're doing, they produce players. So if they have that profile, it's because they know it works. So, and someone that has no experience in scouting cannot argue with that. Yes, you might bring ideas, you might have discussions with the people that have been there and try to understand more why these profiles, try to understand why not the things that you think are good. And that's the way to basically improve as a scout in this case, to have those healthy discussions and have feedback from them with more experience to tell you, okay, yeah, this is why. And because we are good in producing and developing this type of players. And this is what we look for because first in football for us, this is what we can produce and this is what we need. Fair play.
Yeah. Interesting. I have a lot of conversations with youth players. I have had lots of conversations with youth players over the years and still do, and parents who may have gone into an academy for a trial and haven't been taken on. So then they're having to deal with that knockback, that dent to that self-esteem. But I often say, look, you just probably were not what they were looking for in that academy. I've worked for different academies. Some are really intensive on the technical side of the game. Some are looking for some real good movers, so the physical side of the game. And as a position, you might have gone in, let's say, as a left back, and their left back actually was just really you're good, theirs is just really, really
Exactly.
good. You might get an opportunity at another academy and be better than their left back, say. So I always say to young children and parents, just keep going, keep developing, and the right time will come, hopefully. So during the practical experience that you got, then the qualifications that you got, you then went into an academy environment.
Yeah,
Right.
so I saw Walsall. Well, there was 2 academies at that moment. Walsall was one of them, and another one where they were looking for part-time coaches. So I applied to both of them with the other academy that I'm not going to mention who they are. I got an interview. I had the interview. It was a Zoom call in that moment because the academy manager at that moment was in an international tournament. So we did the interview by a phone call, video phone call, and basically the reply was that I wasn't successful to get the job because my English was not good enough to get the job. So basically what they wrote was, when you improve your English, try to apply again for a role. And I love that. I love setbacks. I love challenges because that ignite a bigger fire on me to say, I'm going to get a job and it's not going to be with you guys because I will never apply for a job with you and I will never apply for that club. Now, Walsall also apply and I was unsuccessful, but the head of coaching at that moment was Rob Williams, and he gave me a call and said, you didn't get the role, but what I can offer you is to start with the pre-academy group. So it was an interesting moment because I was with Wolf doing academy scout, Cat 1 academy, to go to a pre-academy setup in a Cat 3, but as a coach. And I said, well, what do you want? Do you want to be a coach in a professional academy? Yes. Okay, let's go. Let's take it. So I started with the pre-academy group, and basically what Rob told me at that moment was, be here, get used to the academy, come and watch the academy groups, trying to learn from other coaches, and if an opportunity comes, you might be ready for it. Luckily enough, it happened 3 weeks after. So 3 weeks after, he gave me a call and said, I got an opening for the under 13s, are you interested? And I said yes, and I started with the under 13s at Walsall.
So to dive a little bit deeper into your academic background, you also pursued a master's. What was that course?
Yeah, so I did a master's in performance analysis. The main reason was when I was still with Walsall, I was thinking, or I was looking at the way I see it is, if you want to reach to a certain level in any profession, in any industry, what the profile of the people at the level you want to reach, what they have done, what qualifications, what experience, what have made them and good enough to be there. So I started searching with top coaches in the UK, and I noticed, okay, they have masters, either in football coaching or masters in performance analysis. I didn't want to go football coaching because I thought, well, if you're doing your licenses and you have enough time on the grass, you're going to be a good football coach. But you're lacking probably the structure to be a good analyst. So I said, I'm going to go while the masters in performance analysis because liking scouting, the recruitment side, liking the analysis side, and nowadays you see the modern coaches are doing 2 jobs more often. They are A-licensed coaches, but also they are the analysts of the team. So I thought it was a good combination to have in terms of trying to prepare myself to reach full-time football in a decent level.
Yeah, so it's that continuous professional development, really. I'm also doing a master's, particularly on the business side of football. So it's being more well-rounded. Do you think that is really important in the modern game in terms of that career path?
Yeah, I think nowadays, as I said, there are a lot of coaches in the top level that they are not only coaches, they are capable of doing not the session side, but also is the analysis side. Or the analysts, they are also good coaches. And if you ask any coach, Can they analyze the game? Yes, of course they can analyze the game. They need to make decisions during the games, and they don't necessarily need an analyst. The analyst, I think, is a more structured way to give the information to the players in a more cleaner way for the coaches to receive that information. But are coaches capable of doing analysis? Of course they are. They know the game. Analysts are capable of doing sessions nowadays, yes, because it's so the amount of tools they have, they can do either way. And as an analyst, you need to know how coaching looks, because if you're going to tell any manager, any coach that you're working with, well, we should work on this. Okay, but how would that session look like? So you need to know how coaching is. The other way around, if you're a coach, you need to know how to give that information to the players and make the structure. Okay, this is the analysis. This is how we should do it. So I think in terms of analysis itself, it didn't change my analysis, because you, as a coach, as I said, you are analyzing games all the time. But it was more about the structure of delivering the information. It was more about how long should a session last so the players stay engaged, what techniques you can use during that session to make players engage, what tools can you use so they understand exactly what they're seeing. We know players are different learners, so how, if when we coach, we do in different ways so everybody in that group understands what you want. So it's the same with analysis. If you want all that group of players to understand the analysis, you need to find different tools for them to understand the message that you're giving. So it was more about using the right tools, using the right techniques, structuring the analysis in the right way so they can take it and it's really useful for them, because that's the main thing. It has to be useful for the players. At the end, everything that we do is for the players. It's not for us. We can have an amazing presentation, but if the players do not understand a single thing that we are saying, what's the point? We need to find a way that is simple enough and engaging enough for the players to say, yes, I get it. And if we're asking for something, they need to understand why. Normally people, when they understand why, they will do things easier, because, okay, yeah, there is a good reason for that. Yes, I will do it. But that's where analysis is really important. It's simplify, clear enough, and understandable for the players.
So, amongst your many roles so far, very young children, youth, academy, grassroots, non-league, female. You also took on a role University of Warwick men's team, won a title. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so that was around September 2019. And again, looking for roles, I see this opportunity to go university football. Without knowing much about university football, it was something that it was quite interesting, because it's not first team football, but it's adult boys. And you know some of the former academy players and uni, so you will find decent players. And University of Warwick, the position they were looking for was for the first team. So it was really interesting, because I know, wow, at least I'm going to get the best group of players of the team. So I applied, I went there, and it was, I think, one of the best experiences I ever had. I was with them with almost 4 years. I think the beauty of university football is that even that we had 4 teams in the club, in the men's club, I was working with the first team, but also I had the opportunity to oversee the other groups. And for example, on Monday, we used to train the first team and the second team on the same pitch, half and half, and we always finished with an 11-a-side game. But it was really good for us, because we could work on the tactics that we were trying to do for the Wednesday match. And having that half an hour every single week, 11-a-side football as a practice, it was really good. But also it was the opportunity to work with a set of players. Yes, you could bring someone from the second team, from the third team, or the fourth team. But basically, this is the group of players that you were going to have the whole season. If we compare that to non-league football, when you have signings almost every week, or no, this player is leaving because someone else offered more money, now we need to find someone else, it could create a lot of disruption in terms of how you coach. With them, it was a real process of this is where we are, this is where we want to go, this is how we want to play. I think it helped me really to have a proper personal philosophy of how to play, and having the time to, okay, these are my players, let's do a profile on them, what are their best attributes, and what formation is the best for them, and what type of play do we want to play. So it was really good because you have that group, you work with them, you develop them then, but you don't have disruptions of, oh, this player is leaving, or no, I need to find another player. No. You work with them, make them as best as you can, that's it.
So with all of these experiences, what's next for you in your career?
Tough question. At the moment, I'm with Sporting Calcio Women. We are about to finish the season. We managed this last Sunday. We won our last game. This last game we won it, and that basically saved us from relegation. So we are staying in Tier 3 of women's football. It's hard to know what's going to happen next because there might be changes at the club. We never know. Also, I'm always looking for opportunities. Do I want to go full time in football? Yes. I think everybody that works in football at some point, that is the main goal. It's still looking for that opportunity that I'm looking for. I think the main thing with me is that I love football and I'm happy to do any role because I enjoy doing it. It could be coaching, it could be analysis, it could be recruitment. I just love football. It's what I feel like it has to be my life all the time. And this is important probably for young aspiring coaches, is that you never stop learning. The people that surround you, whichever environment you go, there are always going to be more people with more experience, people that will teach you things. If you are humble enough to, one, receive feedback, also to accept ideas with an open-minded. So for me, it's one, learning from other coaches that I work with, attending CPDs is still important. There are a lot of valuable people. Social media, you find a lot of free information. Networking is a great way to also learn. So it's finding one challenges as well. So what is the next challenge? Because I think if we go to a comfort zone, we are not improving. So sometimes we need to feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations to really grow, and have that mentality of saying, if you stay like this, you won't improve. And that's why I have changed certain roles throughout the years, because I wanted to challenge myself to a higher level. But yeah, that's the way I think I could try to improve, is one, finding those challenges, two, CPDs, which are important, and always observing other coaches that will have more experience. Having conversations like this one is a massive one, because it also gave me a chance to look back at my 10 years of coaching, that probably I don't do it, really, to see what I have done in 10 years of coaching and where do I want to go next.
So with all that experience, how would you summarise your coaching philosophy?
My main thing is make players better. In that sense, I don't care too much if it's youth football or senior football or women's football or men's football, university football. It's about developing players. If you develop players, the chances of you winning games, if you are in first team football and results are important, are bigger. Because if you improve the 1% of each player, that means the team is 11% better. So if you do that in a long period of time, that means you will get results. my main philosophy, as I said, is I try to focus on the players as individuals and make them better, because at the end that will create a better team. I try to come always with my personality and show them who I am, because when you are transparent and honest, that open doors to good relationship with players, and we are all human beings. And if we have a good connection as persons, that connection as coach player, I think is way easier because we trust each other. So when I tell you something, it's not like having a go at you. I just want you to be better. And if you tell me something because you might not be in agreement with me, I'm going to take it the right way because you also want me to be a better coach for you. So I think that is the most important thing is one, be humans first, because that's what we are. And then, yes, improve the players, make them better, but have those good relationships when you have full trust to each other.
Finally, I'd like to ask this question to all the coaches that come on. If you could give one piece of advice, or more than one piece of advice, to any up-and-coming, aspiring coach just coming into the industry, what would it be?
Be confident with your knowledge when you're doing a session, but be humble enough to accept mistakes, to accept feedback, and understand that there's always someone that can give you a teaching lesson that will make you better. And it's not something bad that you don't know everything. We don't know everything. We will keep learning. And probably the most important one is be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, because walking into the dressing rooms when you don't know anyone, coming to a country when you don't know the language, and now my English is not perfect, but this is my challenge every day. I'm not coaching in my fluent language. So I need to find ways to be a better communicator in a different language. So that is an uncomfortable situation. This interview will be way easier for me in Spanish, way easier. But this is my life. So is it uncomfortable? Yes, but I need to be comfortable here because this is my life. So as a coach, we're going to be in very uncomfortable situations very often. And you need to try to be with emotional control, be as comfortable as you can, and just crack on with the job.
Well, despite the language barrier, you've been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Muchas gracias. So that's it for today for the episode. I want to thank Juan Dopazo for coming on. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. The links for the socials will be down below. And for Cryfield Surveys Limited for sponsoring the podcast episode. Thank you for listening.